Hello everyone, welcome to the When at Work podcast. You're with the host Julian Leahy. Today I'm joined by Paul Whitebloom, Edward Rahill and Brandon Woodward. Welcome to the show, guests.
Thank you.
Alright, so we're going to play Jeopardy and then we're going to meet our guests individually and find out what they're all about. Let's load up the board. The categories today are... Now, these are real Jeopardy questions, so they'll be US-based a lot of the time, which will help you guys. 60s history, potpourri, city seals, which is US cities, gems and jewels, in other words, and Japan. Edward on the left, you can kick things off. What would you like?
300?
Sorry, what was that?
Can I do 300? I go to 100.
Yeah, on which one?
60s.
60s history, 300. Okay. Names of the Soviet and American spacecraft that docked in space on July 17, 1975.
Soyuz, I can't remember which model, and the space shuttle. The second one after everything.
Sorry, what was the answer?
It's a space shuttle for the United States, and Soyuz, can't remember the model number.
Okay, so space shuttle, names of the Soviet and American spacecraft. Brandon, you got something?
Sure. Is it Soyuz and Skylab?
Let's take a look. It was, you were close, it was Soyuz and Apollo. Apollo, is that the one? No, the 13 one is the one that... No, that one came back. A different one exploded. Anyway, you're still in control, Edward?
You choose another one?
Yeah.
Let's try Japan for 100.
Japan for 100. Many Japanese practice this art of growing dwarfed potted trees. If you know the answer, holler out. Other guests?
Bonsai.
Bonsai. Well done.
Good.
Mr. Miyagi's favorite pastime. Brandon, you're in control.
I'll City Seals for 100.
City Seals for 100. This city motto, meaning let brotherly love continue, is imprinted on its seal.
What is Philadelphia?
Philadelphia. Was that our man in the middle there?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Was that you, Phil? Okay, well done, Phil. You got that one. Philadelphia, home of Rocky and other things. What would you like?
We'll do City Seals again for 200.
City Seals 200. Bet you didn't know this city's seal features Hoover Dam.
What is Las Vegas, Nevada?
Las Vegas is correct. Well done, Phil.
City Seals for 300.
City Seals for 300. Fresno, California has this fruit on its seal, but none is dried.
What is a grape?
Ah, they have a few raisins in that, don't they? Down there, up there, whatever. Grapes is correct. Well done, Phil.
All right, we'll stay here. City Seals for 400.
City Seals 400. Our 16th president, well, your 16th president, appears on this Midwest capital's seal.
What is Lincoln, Nebraska?
Lincoln, Nebraska. Brandon shoots from the hip. It's correct. Well done. You're in control.
City Seals for 500.
City Seals for 500, says Brandon. This city's seal has depictions of an eagle, the state capitol building, and the sun setting over the Rockies.
What is Denver, Colorado?
Denver, Colorado is correct. Well done, Phil. Close race, 1,100 versus 500, Brandon. What would you like, Phil?
We'll go with in other words for 100.
In other words, 100. Remove a gust of air from that man's jibs.
What is take the wind out of your sails?
Take the wind out of your sails is correct. Well done, Brandon Esquire.
I'll take in other words for 200.
In other words, for 200, flip over every rock.
What is leave no stone unturned?
Leave no stone unturned is correct. Well done, Brandon. You're on 800 points, catching up.
What in other words for 300, please?
In other words, for 300, unfettered like one feathered friend.
What is free as a bird?
Free as a bird. Free bird. Good song. Brandon, what would you like?
In other words, for 400.
In other words, 400. Steal the thing, then again, let the thing stay put. Steal the thing. Let's take a look. We don't
What
know
is
this
take it
one.
or leave it?
Oh, you just got in there. Take it or leave it is correct. Well done, Brandon.
Let's run the category. In other words, for 500.
500. In other words, speak in gobbles.
What is to talk turkey?
Talk turkey. Oh, wow. I'm getting impressed, actually, Brandon. They were pretty obscure. What would you like next?
Those are out there. Gems and jewels for 100.
Gems and jewels 100. Chinese carvings of this stone from the Qing period are especially treasured by collectors.
What is jade?
Jade. It's got to be. Well done. Phil, you're in control. What would you like?
We will go with potpourri for 100.
Potpourri for 100. A feminist might tell you it's what the letters of NOW stand for. National Organization
Organization of Women. Yeah.
of Women is correct. Well done, Phil. I'm not sure if it's still around, but you're in control. What would you like?
All right, potpourri for 200, please.
Potpourri for 200. What a Spaniard usually drinks from a bota or bota?
What is wine?
Wine is correct. Well done, Brandon. What would you like?
Potpourri for 300.
Potpourri 300. There is a small population of blue whales that can be seen in this famous Canadian river. Famous Canadian river. I don't know any rivers in Canada. The answer is the St. Lawrence.
Oh.
You're still in control. Brandon, would you like 400 potpourri?
No, let's go to gems and jewels for 200.
Gems and jewels for 200. The most valued of these gems are a deep purplish red color known as pigeon blood.
What is ruby?
Ruby is red. It's got to be correct.
Yeah,
Well
was-
done, Brandon.
Oh.
Or
Gems and jewels for
sapphire red as
300.
well. Maybe. Brandon, what was that?
Gems and jewels for 300.
Gems and jewels 300. A small amount of copper in this state gemstone of New Mexico gives it its bluish color. What's a blue gem? I can think of one starting with a T.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is topaz?
No, sorry. I barked up the wrong tree. Turquoise is what we were looking for.
Turquoise.
But topaz, I think, is as well. Brandon?
Gems and jewels for 400.
Gems and jewels 400, and intaglio is essentially the reverse of this type of gem carving. The reverse of a carving. Who knows? Let's have a look at the answer. It is a cameo. Is that right? What would you like, Brandon?
Let's go gems and jewels for 500. It can't get any worse.
Gems and jewels for 500. The name of this purple quartz comes from the Greek meaning not intoxicated.
What is amethyst?
Amethyst. Well done, Brandon. Is correct. Yeah, that's. I knew that somehow. We had a similar question. And I think Ames means drunk. AMES. Something like that. Anyway.
Sounds fair.
Sounds fair. I'll accept that.
I wasn't here in the 60s, so I'll get potpourri for 400.
Potpourri for 400. The Pig Bowl is a California charity football game between people of this occupation. Goodness me.
Police and fire.
Please?
Yes.
Law enforcement is correct. Well done. Everyone knew it, but nobody wanted to say it. All right, what would you like, Edward?
We'll potpourri for 500.
Say it again.
500 potpourri.
Potpourri 500. In 1978, Pat Donahue ate almost 2 pounds of these in 68 seconds without sipping a single Gibson.
What is
It's an onion.
Onion, what was it? Just onion?
Onion.
Pickled onion. Onion is correct. Well done, Brandon. How'd you know that?
I've had a Gibson once or twice, and I know what's in it.
I thought it was a guitar.
60s history for 100.
60s History 100. In 1967, this Latin American country admitted aiding Venezuelan guerrillas in Venezuela. Uruguay, let's take a look. It was Cuba. It was old, what was his name with the army fatigues and the little square hat?
Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro. All right. What are we doing next? Edward, you're in control.
Okay, let's try 60s for 200.
60s History 200. In 1962, the Dutch gave West New Guinea to the UN, which then gave it to this island nation. Just on top of Australia.
What is New Zealand?
Well, they're to the side.
Side to side.
We're looking for Indonesia. What would you like, Edward?
Let's knock off this series. 60, 40, 400.
460s history. The two southern African colonies that won full independence from Portugal in the mid-70s. Southern African is key. So you got South Africa, you got Zimbabwe down there. You got, that's about it. What else you got? They're the only
You got
two.
Tanzania, but I don't think that's it.
Let's take a look. Angola and Mozambique is what we were looking for on that one. Edward, what would you like?
Okay, last one for 60s. Let's knock off the 500.
560s British leader who died on January 24, 1965. Churchill with the big stogie. Well done, Edward. What would you like?
Okay, so last of Japan for 200.
Japan for 200. A favorite dish of the Japanese is this one of sliced beef and vegetables cooked in soy sauce and sake. Who knows? Beef. Oh. The one I'm thinking of comes with noodles as well. The answer is, it's not ramen. It is sukiyaki. Okay, we've got 3 questions left. 300, 400, 500.
Or 300 for Japan.
300 Japan. Europeans first heard of Japan from this man who called it Zipangu. Yes, I did this in high school.
Wasn't Marco Polo, right?
Anyone got it?
I said Marco Polo just because that's the only name that comes up in the forward one.
Oh, Marco Polo. Well, maybe it is that. I'm thinking of an American guy who went out there and opened up trade for the Americans. Marco Polo. Well done, Edward. 400. Here we go. In spring 1989, this Japanese Prime Minister resigned after admitting involvement in a financial scandal.
Who was Abe?
Abe. That was a bit later on. That was more like 2000. 2000.
Light on my Japanese prime minister.
Well, who knows? I mean, 1989 prime minister. It was actually Noboru Take. It looks like it says Takeshita, but I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. All right, last question. In Japan, it's called the Cha no Yu and is carried out according to this 600-year-old tradition. They do all sorts of things. They climb up big poles and they do all sorts of traditions. They run around with these like towels on and who knows. The tea ceremony. Probably being a bit culturally insensitive there. All right, that's the end of the game. Well played, gentlemen. Edward on 1200. And we've got, 1300 for Phil and Brandon on 3400. Well done, Brandon. You did very well there. All right, what we do is now we pop over to the winner and they can kick things off. Do you want to tell us a bit about what you're up to now? You're a partner in a law firm. What sort of law do you specialise in, Brandon?
Sure. We're a business and real estate law firm in South Florida.
South Florida. Do you have any interesting clients?
Some of our clients, because we're in South Florida, the golf capital of the world, and because of our proximity to some of the higher end communities down here, we do have artists and athletes, and internet folks as clients.
I was wondering if you had any like Scarface type people. No comment.
Talk about not that's for consumption here. We have a fairly good group that handles business transactions, particularly real estate, for folks that high net worth, again, artists, athletes that like to preserve their anonymity, and we kind of just get their business deals done for them.
So you specialize in a lot of the high net worth individuals, and they feel a bit more comfortable going with somebody who also has, you're dealing with other similar clients, I guess.
A lot of it is done by referral, which is helpful. It could be anybody. My practice is generally the mergers and acquisitions, which is just fancy for buying and selling businesses. Medical practices has been, particularly with as doctors retire and age out of their practices, and corporations or large corporate nationwide practices are taking smaller practices. That's been a real good niche for us over the last few years. Buying and selling medical practices. We certainly buy and sell financial services companies. Your small local Raymond James or Merrill Lynch team or something like that will pass the torch or be bought or be sold. And we're there to facilitate that transaction.
And how long have you guys been around there? Is it in Miami or where is it?
No, we're actually we have two locations. My office, which is here, is in Stuart, Florida, north of West Palm. West Palm is a full 2.5 hours north of Miami, and so I'm just a little north of that. We do have another office in West Palm proper, which is a little closer to the city stuff that we handle down there. Partners are split up amongst the two offices. We've got 5 partners, 4 associates now, and we're tickled to death. We've had a couple of good years in a row, and it's right there on my website. We do stay in our lane. We can't help with wills or criminal matters or divorce law. We certainly have friends of ours that handle that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, we stay very much in our lane, and that is the business law side of things.
Yeah, I'm always more comfortable dealing with people who have a particular niche, and then I think at least they know that particular area well, and you know what you're getting when you go there. And how long have you been there with this?
I founded, it was just me for a few years, and I started out in opening my own shop in 2012. Then my firm, just me, merged with Kelly and Fulton in 2019. So I guess it's been 6 years as Woodward, Kelly, Fulton, Kaplan. Mr. Fulton retired 2 years ago, but out of respect, his name is still on the door. And but my partners and I are just tickled to death that we have a lot of folks that trust us with their particularly with their businesses. And you hit on an important point there, Julian. Use pros. And what makes business people successful, doctors, engineers, whoever they are that may own their own business, is that do it yourself. I built it. I can handle it. I can run it. You see the guys that do manufacturing, they can run every machine in the plant. The bottom line is when it comes to selling assets or selling stock or being acquired or doing an acquisition, it's a different language. It's not a DIY project. And, it's very expensive for me to come in and clean that up. Or there's just flat out litigation when something goes sideways. But getting your advisors in place, your financial advisor, usually a tax advisor, and in a mergers and acquisition kind of a person like me involved, absolutely makes for smooth sailing. There are business brokers in the world. Some are very good, some are not. And like I said, we help kind of whether we're the quarterback of the team or we're just playing a role on the team, it's what keeps my day fairly full. We're closing one today, but at the same time, we're at a spot where we don't have to handle. We don't take every client that comes through. It's got to be a proper fit. We'll run 1 or 2 deals a month. So I don't have a calendar or a stack of files to my roof. And that allows us to give the time and attention to every client, that they deserve, when they're dealing with essentially their life's work.
And you mentioned business brokers. There are a lot of people who are business brokers, and they will help you sell the business. But for me, there's a lot of room for things to maybe not quite go that smoothly. And if you do run into that situation, you're going to want to have legal experts on hand, because they're going to make sure everything's kosher going through. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Absolutely. Business brokers, do get mixed reviews. In fact, they have a job to do. They're going to sell something and take a commission for it. It is in their interest to make sure to get the deal done and get themselves paid. I can't fault anybody for that. On the other hand, they may be in a hurry to get the deal done, and it may not be the best financial deal. And business brokers, if they're not lawyers, since they are usually not attorneys, will gloss over some of the stickier things, some of the things that, no, this isn't quite right. How are we going to deal with a company acquired that has debt, has liabilities, has previous lawsuits or ongoing litigation? How are those handled? And when you get a business attorney that handles mergers and acquisitions, again, every single day, I've done so many of these. Everything we put in a contract, everything we put in writing, it's there because something has gone wrong on a deal before. And we've seen it before. We know how to solve it. And if the two parties who start off liking each other, never forget, when you're buying and selling businesses, they generally start in love. They like each other. They want to make the deal go. My job is to get it done without it falling apart. We don't want them mad at each other. We want them to get themselves, bought, sold, and out the door and on with their lives. Yeah. But you're exactly right. Having, a lawyer on board that has seen a lot of these things and knows the law of business, corporations, LLC, the rules, obligations, and responsibilities under my state's law, federal law, or whatever state you're in. It's worth the price. It's worth the price to pay, to make sure you're getting the right results.
Yeah. So for people selling their businesses and also buying and selling large real estate deals.
Absolutely. We talk about what a lot of people misuse the word due diligence. And, I grin every time I hear something. I did my due diligence. The word due diligence comes from the mergers and acquisitions in real estate world. It is that period of time where you go out and you inspect whatever you're about to buy and make sure it's suitable for your needs. Real estate's the same way. There's always, whether you guys have bought houses, there's an inspection period. That's your due diligence. You can look at things. You can ask questions, review financials. It's a peek. It's a look at, what's going on behind the scenes. So you want to make sure that your due diligence is organized, done properly. You're looking at the right things. You're looking at a lot of things and not just a small list. So yes, when it comes to real estate, that is another fairly large part of our practice. We don't do residential here, but commercial is where it's at. There's financing, there's creative financing around commercial deals. Of course, leases for large chains and things like that can run 150 pages or more. And it's all there for a reason. It's all there because someone has screwed it up before in the history of some time. So all in, like I said, all of these things are generally higher stakes financially. And that's why it just makes good sense to let's get the right people on board. When it comes to selling businesses, actually on my website, that's right there, all the way at the bottom, I've got a white paper I wrote about how to sell a family business. It's free, and it starts with build your team, how to do it, when to do it, how to get your team together, when to start thinking about selling your business. And the answer is not when you're required to because of a health condition or a market downturn. The time to think about selling your business is, in fact, years before those events happen. So it's free. There's no obligation. but it's there as a reference and a resource for your listeners.
Yeah, check that out, because most people, what they do is they put it off until something happens and they're forced to. But there's a process that you've got to go through to get everything in shape so that it is in the best possible order to be sold. You don't want to have to do all of that because somebody died, or there's financial reasons why you need to sell it. So you do have to have it prepared, and particularly with, sometimes people think because they're selling it or the sons are taking over, they don't need to worry or whatever. But there's all sorts of things that can go wrong with that. So you got to make sure that the succession is in hand. And do you work mostly with people in your local area, Brandon?
We practice all over the state of Florida.
All over the state of Florida. Excellent.
We are able to handle. We handle matters in other states. If it's my partners have a fairly robust federal bankruptcy practice. We do those things in other parts of the country. But for something out of our state of Florida, Florida's big enough for us. Anything out of state, we would hire local counsel.
Yeah.
And advise the local counsel on how things get done. But no, Florida is our home. And like I said, a lot of times for my out-of-town clients, they'll meet with me just like this, and they can talk to me as much or as little as they want. Some of my services are done on a flat fee, and that's helpful because they don't have to worry about an hourly rate or a bill coming every 6 minutes. We bill in 15-minute increments, but a bill every month for some amount of time for a question that the client wants answered, but it's a little embarrassed or they're worried about that bill. A flat fee, and like I said, some of our work is done on a flat fee, eliminates that worry. We're happy to talk to our clients as many times or as long as necessary to make sure they're comfortable with us and their transaction.
Yes, and you're also the president of the Martin County Bar. Is that correct?
I am. It was an honor. Martin County is a fairly rural county north of Palm Beach, where West Palm Beach is. We have about 400 attorneys in our association. I've handled some committees. I've come up through secretary, treasurer, vice president, and this year I am the president. To my knowledge, I am the first business transactions president that they've ever had, which I approach from a very different perspective. I love litigators, guys that go to court, guys and girls, men and women that go to court every day. I have the utmost respect for. My job is to keep people out of court. By having their transactions, their deals, and their documents done right and done properly. But back to the Martin County Bar Association, I took over last May. I'm giving it up next month, actually. I leaned over the podium and I said, "Hey, you've had the last 8 presidents have all been litigators. I'm not a litigator. I'm a transactions attorney. I got a lot of problems with these people." It got a good laugh. And the judges in the room had never really seen me because I don't go to court every day or even ever. And it's really built some strong bonds with the other attorneys, which has turned into referrals to my practice, which is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also adds credibility. Like if you're president of the bar, you must know what you're talking about, I assume.
What one would think.
You would think. All right, well, that's
Some days.
wonderful. Anybody out there in the Florida region looking for a good lawyer, Brandon Woodward can help you. Thank you very much, Brandon.
No, thank you for having me.
All right, Phil, let's pop over to Phil now. Phil, you're a sales guy. I like talking to sales guys. Tell us about what you're up to.
All right. Well, thank you. Good to see everybody. I have a sales coaching business. I am specifically niched into sales coaching. So I think Julian, I fit your preferred niche area. So, and as a sales coach, I'd like to explain what that means relative to sales training. So sales coaching, I'm very tactical in this. It's about helping businesses to get results immediately. And that doesn't mean not to be successful for the long term either, but they're in business today. So in sales training, which I encourage everybody to get sales training, it's linear. And you start at the beginning. How do you meet people? How do you get in the door? All the way through the process to closing, and sometimes even on how to retain customers and clients. However, when you're in business right now, you have opportunities right now that you need to close, or you're having trouble getting in the door. So I work with everybody individually where they're at to get them immediate results, and training comes with coaching. Where I say the other way around, coaching very rarely comes with the training.
Yeah.
So I help them get those immediate results, and then we move forward, and it's working great.
What usually happens is you go along to some sales training and everybody shouts and jumps and feels great, and then 2 days later you forget everything. So it's a good idea to have coaching going along with that. And do you sell this as a package to companies?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a package. What I do is I have different programs, if you will, based on their need and their budget and their time commitment. So I do, and I've had group coaching. I had that for 18 months, and I took it down. I'm going to rebuild it as something else. Do workshops and seminars for all kinds of business. I'm industry agnostic, so it does not matter what the industry is. And I've named my company BeenThere Consulting Services, because I've already been in so many opportunities and situations over the last 40
Been there, done
years.
that.
Yeah.
Do you say that in the States?
So yeah, everybody says it to me. I can tell you that.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. And even though you're industry agnostic, which types of industries do you see a lot of?
The ones that seek me out the most, I'll share several of them that I'm working with, but the ones who come find me were ironically the industries that I wasn't looking at myself, and that is financial services and insurance. And the reason I didn't choose that when I focused my company into this area is because I knew those people were very highly trained, and their companies, small and large, put a lot of investment into that training. What I didn't know until later on is that training is very much into the skill set and the knowledge for what they do, but for selling, it's like nothing. It's very general. Yeah. It's when you get out there in the real world, the scripts are terrible, and they're all struggling. And plus, they have competitors everywhere. And in the insurance industry, particular, and financial services, you could be selling 100% exactly the same thing as somebody else at exactly the same price. And so, how do you differentiate yourself? And that's one of the biggest deals that I do is helping others to learn how to differentiate themselves from everybody else without being elusive on what they do, because that just aggravates people.
Yeah. And do you find that you work, the people that contact you, are they like the sales director, or do you get individual salespeople reaching out to you?
Two. One is usually the CEOs of small businesses.
Yep.
The CEOs will reach out to me, and then sometimes medium-sized businesses. And then there's individual contributors, so salespeople, and also solopreneurs. They reach out to me quite a bit.
Got you. Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff to have a look at. If you're in the sales game and you're looking for a new trainer, you do need to always revisit your training. If you are in sales, Phil Whitebloom's got a lot going on there. Check out his URL in the show notes, and you can also reach out to Phil on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, Phil Whitebloom.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, let's pop over to Edward. Now, I've just got to unmute you. Where are we? Unmute. All right, Edward, tell us about what you've been up to. Now, there was a big race you were involved in. What was that?
Yeah, well, this is I'm currently an author, and I am doing a startup movie production business, which I hope to be able to launch in partnership with CEO by the end of the year. But that's not my history. That's really the last 2-3 years of my life. I'm a former, English kind of one from the founder, CEO, chairman of Woodward Energy, which I founded in 2014. Got my connection with Blackstone in 2015, and then basically have you talked about the M&A business. I ran M&A for 5 years. Every private equity firm in the world is looking at that's going to do it. So finally, in 2021, we flipped it, and went for $1 billion. Not bad stuff. And part of that, I was president and chief financial officer at ITC Holdings, president of ITC Development, and then I took that with the startup also, and we began my experience with private equity. KKR is the financial behind our management team that bought the transmission and utility us.
Hey, Edward, I've got to interrupt you. We've got a bit of an audio problem. Have you ever seen the cartoon Charlie Brown? You sound like the teacher in Charlie Brown. I just cannot understand a word you're saying. Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll reschedule you and we'll see if we can get your audio fixed up. But can you guys hear it as well? Or
yes.
You could hear it?
It's a mess.
Yeah, you can't hear it. Okay. So we'll just reschedule it and we'll get some different microphones plugged in and we'll get you back another time. I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us, guests. See you next time, everyone. Bye.